going to tell you guys the story of how I found $3,000 in Rome. No one can ever believe when I tell them this story, and trust me, I have pictures and all of the evidence that this was true. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am so glad that you guys clicked on this video. I have gotten so many questions about this crazy story. I have had people tell me that I should get this published in like an article because it is that wild of a story, and I can't wait to tell the whole world this. I think the whole world needs to hear this story, especially now. I have a lot of crazy stories to share, so trust me, you will not want to miss any more crazy stories like this one. Hit the subscribe button right now. Let's go ahead and continue into this one. Grab a blanket, grab a snack, get ready to relax. I decided that I wanted to film this video as my first story time because it is the middle of summer and no one can travel, and this summer I really imagined that my boyfriend Garrick and I would be able to go to Europe, and I was kind of reminiscing on the time when I went to Europe for the first time when I was 13. My grandmother and my aunt decided to take me on like a 3-week European getaway when I was 13, just to kind of immerse myself into new culture and learn. Technically, we backpacked through Europe, so we just had these tiny little red rolling backpack suitcases, and we had the time of our lives. The first 4 days, if I remember correctly, we spent them in Paris, and the next few days we were going to be in Rome. And we had just gotten to Rome from this amazing experience in Paris. I had dreamed about going to Paris and seeing all of the fashion. I was really into like fashion and makeup, kind of as I am now, when I was, 13 and even younger than that. So my grandmother always told me that she would take me to Paris and we would see all the fashion and it would be so wonderful. And that's exactly what we did. We had an absolute blast. But while we went to Europe, she wanted to make sure that I was able to go to a couple different countries to kind of take everything in. And so next on the list after Paris was going to Italy, and we went to Rome first. And I think we were there for maybe 2 or 3 days. So on our first day, we checked into a Marriott in Rome, and we took a cab to the Trevi Fountain to go throw a coin in and make a wish, Lizzie McGuire style, and I thought that's how the whole thing would go. And at 13, when you are preparing your wish to throw into the Trevi Fountain, well, first of all, when you toss a coin in, that means that you have to go back, which I'm thinking now, when will I get to go back? But anyway, and then I wanted to wish for something else. And when you're 13, I mean, there's not very much to wish for, I guess. And I have always been a huge purse gal. Like, I love a good designer handbag. I have, like, my goals in life are to own like a Chanel or a Birkin or just like these legendary handbags. Like, that's what I want out of life. And I've always been that way. And so got to the Trevi Fountain, tossed my coin in, and what did I wish for? A designer bag. We had just walked down, I forget exactly which street it's called in Italy, I'm drawing a blank, but there is this street where there is lots of designer stores, and so I had just gotten done walking past, Prada and Versace and Dolce & Gabbana and Gucci, and I just was like, so I felt like I was on this designer handbag roller coaster. It's all I could think about. So I tossed my coin in, wished for a designer handbag, and I think to myself, one day I'll have enough money and I'll come back here and I will go on a shopping spree and I will get all of these beautiful bags. I tossed my coin in and went to go get some Nutella gelato, and the sun was getting ready to set, and we had traveled from Paris to Rome earlier that day on a couchette, which is a train that you sleep on. It was really cool, but I didn't get any sleep, and neither did my grandmother or my aunt, but it was all about the experience. So we were exhausted, and we were going to go to the Vatican the next day, and wanted to make sure that, you know, we just had like a nice dinner and we were well rested and we could get up early and go to the Vatican. So get my Nutella gelato. My grandma hails a cab. We get into it. My aunt sits in the front with the driver, and my grandma and I get in the back seat. And I sit on something, and I didn't see it because it was all black, just like the seat was. And I sat on it, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? And I pulled it out from under me, and it was like a thin messenger bag, and across the strap said Louis Vuitton. And I looked at my grandmother, and she looked at me, and I was like, oh my gosh, someone lost their bag. And she looked at me and she said, it's okay, let's bring it back to the hotel and maybe we can figure out whose it is and we can return it to them. We got back to the hotel, and I waited until we got back to open the bag, and in the bag was 2 passports. The man who owned the bag had dual citizenship in Italy and in Egypt. We found flight information. He was flying out of the country the next day, so he was obviously going to need his passports. We found a notebook that was for his job. We found out that he was a Swiss soccer player agent. We found a cell phone, and we found his hotel information, so we could call the hotel that he was staying at, hopefully. And what was really nuts was there was an envelope in the bag, and we opened it because we were looking, for all the information we could find to try to contact him wherever he was, because obviously he didn't have a cell phone, he didn't have anything. So we opened this envelope, and inside was 3,000 US dollars. I had never seen that much money in my life as a 13-year-old. And I was like, oh my gosh, Grandma, look. And I just pulled it out and just fanned it all out in front of me. And she was like, oh my gosh, put that back. Like, that's not yours. Like, put it away. But we just were amazed. And we could have easily taken the money and then tried to call him and give him his bag back. But that wasn't the right thing to do. And I wanted him to have his bag because deep down I knew how upset I would be if I had left my Louis Vuitton bag with all of that important information in it. So it felt so right to call and try to get a hold of him and try to get him his bag. The scary thing was we were only going to be there for a few days. This guy was trying to leave the country. Like, everything was just a mess. Called his hotel and we said, hey, we have something of Mark's. Is he in? And they checked and they saw that he wasn't in his room. He wasn't answering the phone. And we figured, it's probably hard to get back to your hotel from wherever your cab dropped you off from if you don't have any money and you don't have your cell phone. So we were like, oh man, I hope he's okay. I hope he was able to get back. And we were like, okay, well, can you have him call us? We have something of his. It's very important. Just have him return our call. And they were like, okay. And an hour passed and we didn't hear from them. By this point, we had dinner and we were unwinding and getting ready for bed because we were gonna have an early day at the Vatican the next morning. We had to wake up at like 6:30 a.m. and it was already getting late. It was already about 9. And so before we went to bed, we called the hotel one more time to ask, and they said same thing. He wasn't in his room, but they'd make sure that he returned the call. So we were like, all right, I guess we should just call it a night, and if he calls us back, he calls us back. So we got ready for bed, turned out the light, and about 15 minutes later, the phone rang, and it was Mark. And he said, he spoke English, which was very lucky. He said, "Hello, I heard that you have something of mine. Where are you staying? I will come to you." And we told him where we were staying and that we'd meet him in the lobby. And we got so excited. We tried to get as dressed up as we could, and went downstairs to meet him. He wasn't too far. And as we sat downstairs, my grandmother took pictures of me with the bag and the money. And I'll insert those pictures here so you guys can see, because they're quite funny. And he walks in with his like supermodel girlfriend. Like, she was so gorgeous. I'll insert a picture of all of us here. And they were the nicest people in the entire world. We told them the whole story. We told them how excited we were to find his money. But everything was in there safe and sound. And I looked at him and I was like, my grandma always told me to keep my purse on my person. And if I had a Louis Vuitton, I would like never let it go. Like, I would sleep with it. I would love it so much. And that made everybody giggle. I mean, coming from a 13-year-old, that's just super funny and charming. And he looked at my grandmother and my aunt, and he's like, "How could I ever repay you guys for your kindness? If it was with anyone else, I know that this would have gotten stolen. The pickpocketing in Europe is so bad, and that's what people pickpocket for: money, cell phones, and passports. It's quite likely that all of his important information could have just vanished, and it would have been such a pain for him to get it back." And at 13, I didn't understand that, but now as an adult, I do. He must have been so worried. But anyway, he looked at my grandmother and my aunt, and he said, "Well, how long are you guys here for?" And they said, "Oh, well, we're kind of, still in the beginning of our trip. We're headed off to Florence, and then we're going to Switzerland, and then we're going to the UK." And he said, "Oh, well, I have connections to all of the finest hotels throughout Europe because I'm a Swiss soccer player agent. So I put my players up in the best hotels." And we were like, "Okay, where's this going?" And he was like, "Do you have a plan of where you're staying?" And we were like, "Well, no, we're kind of just like going wherever, we can find a spot." And he said, No. I could never repay you. So I will put you in all of the finest hotels for the rest of your stay." And then he looked at me and he said, "And I will be sending you a Louis Vuitton." And I was just like, what? I couldn't talk. I was so just, my jaw was on the floor. And he just was so kind. Sure enough, he put us in 5-star hotels for the rest of our stay. I mean, we were living it up in Europe, let me tell you. So one of the hotels that he put us in Zurich was called the Ladies First Design Hotel, and it's a spa hotel catered to women, which was so thoughtful and wonderful. It just was so thoughtful of him to think of that as a perfect hotel for us, and it was. And went to breakfast one morning there, and on the table at breakfast was a brown box for me. And on that box it said Louis Vuitton, and it was wrapped in a brown leather strap. I mean, it just was gorgeous. And I opened it up, and there was the most beautiful, perfect little Louis Vuitton bag. And I felt like a princess. I felt so special, and it was one of my favorite moments of my life. It just was, it just makes me melt even thinking about it. And, it was that point in time where I learned that you should just always do the right thing. You may not always get rewarded for it, but it's so important to always do the right thing. I mean, you never know what's gonna come from doing the right thing. I have to show you guys. I have the box, the bag, everything still. 1 second. Such a hoarder, I save everything, but I'm glad that I did. So here is the box. It's 11 years old, so here's what it came in. It's kind of been through the ringer. And then I even have the paper saved that it came in. It didn't even rip the sticker. Here, it's still intact. I guess I just slid the purse out. And then we have the purse. This was the beautiful little purse that he gifted to me. And how cute is this for a 13-year-old? Like, I love it. And yeah, I've kept it all this time. It's a reminder to me to just always do the right thing. You know, I know each time you do the right thing, you're probably not going to get compensated for it or rewarded, but that doesn't mean that couldn't turn into a bigger reward, you know, in the future. If you like the story and want to hear more like it, give this video a thumbs up. Like I said, hit the subscribe button. And if you guys have made it this far in the video, I just want to genuinely thank you. Comment down below and let me know who your favorite designer is, because I want to know. I have to say now, I'm a Saint Laurent girl, but I really don't discriminate, but I love Saint Laurent. I will have a new video up on Sunday, so stay tuned. I will see you guys in my next video. Take care.